Hello, it's good to be with you today. I do hope you've all had a good week. Today our story is called Two Sons, and Reverend Helen will be doing our craft and leading our song, and the craft today is going to be origami. She's going to make a behaviour helper. I think we can all do with that at times to help our behaviour.
So today we're going to make an origami behaviour helper. Now that's quite hard to say, and I thought by calling it a behaviour helper it might make you think, oh, what's one of those? So let me show you. This fits very well with our story today because it might help you make the right decisions when you're deciding how to behave. So I've got a square piece of paper. And what I want you to do is to fold it into a triangle, just like that. Nice sharp lines. I've learnt that from Anne. She always does very good sharp lines. And then fold it the opposite way. And we press down firmly on our lines. Now, when you open that up, you have the shape of 4 small triangles on the paper. So if I turn it that way, you can see the line. And I'm going to bend that one right into the very cross in the middle. So that again gets folded like that. And then I'll do the one opposite. And that as well, I've got to look to see where my cross is in the middle, because the more accurate you can do this, the better it works. So there we go. And then you do the other two. So you're making a smaller square. So I'll do one more. So have you ever thought that sometimes you do make the wrong decision as to how to spend your time or how to do something nice for other people? Well, this is going to help you do that. So you'll be like the son in Anne's story who maybe started off not making the right decision, but then came to the right one at the end. So I'm going to turn it over now. Can you see what I've done? I've got 4 flaps there. I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to do exactly the same again. I'm going to fold my corners in so I make a smaller square. There. Right. And one more. Now, as we always say on this, I'm sure if you were making it at home, you could make it a lot tidier. So if you turn it over now, you've got 4 flappy bits of paper. This is slightly thicker than paper. This is card, really. So I'm going to turn it over that way, and I'm going to fold it that way just to make sure that I've got a good crease like that. And I'm going to fold it the other way so I've got another good crease like that. I'm pressing so hard my fingers are going red. Now this is going to be really exciting because we're going to now turn this into a behaviour decision maker. So I'm going to put some numbers on the outside. I'm going to put 1, 2, 3 and 4 like that. Then I'm going to turn it over, and on each of these, now you could write a colour if you wanted to, or you could put another number. It's a bit like a dice. You choose what you want to do. If I was going to put numbers, colours, then I would spell out the colour as I was moving it, but I'm going to put numbers there. There we go, that goes up to number 8. So I've got 4 numbers on the outside, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Then I turn it over and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now if you open each of those numbers, inside there's a blank piece of paper. And what I've done to one I made earlier, I've put down some things that I think, certainly when my children were young, or when I was young, I would have liked them to have done. And I'll read them out to you. They say, I will offer to help in the house. This one says, I will make my bed tomorrow morning. If I turn it round, this one says, I will be nice to my brother or sister or cousin. You can put cousin if you haven't got a brother or a sister. This one says, if I'm asked to help, I will say yes. Then we have, I will make a card and send it to someone who is on their own. That might be a grandparent or even a neighbour, if you know a neighbour on their own. This one says, I will wash up or empty the dishwasher today. Well, that depends on if you have or haven't got a dishwasher. It might just say, I will wash up today. This one says, I will thank my mum or my dad or my carer for all that they do. And this one says, I will do my homework on time. And at the moment, that would be your schoolwork, I guess. And you can write whatever you want. You can do some easy ones and you can do some more difficult ones. But it wouldn't be fun if you just put easy things into all of them. So make some of them some things that you would do that would challenge you a little bit and really make you feel as though you'd helped out or done something that normally you might go, nah, I'm not doing that. So we'll fold it back up. So we've got all our writings and our numbers. And then what you do is you press it all together like that. Can you see? I'm just going to move the other one out of the way. Now, I might say to my mum, pick a number. And she would say number 2. So I might go 1, 2. And then I'd look inside at the numbers that were there. And I would say, pick another number. And my mum might say 6. So I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'd say to my mum, right, pick me one more number. And this time she might say number 2. So I'm going to lie it down. I'm going to peel back what it says there. I'm just going to turn it round because I'm the opposite way round to you. And number 2 says that I will be nice to my brother or my sister or my cousin. So that's what I would try to do on that day. Should we have one more go before we finish? And then hopefully you'll be able to make one and put some easy or some difficult things in. Wonder what number I should choose. Maybe number 3. 1, 2, 3. Pick a number. Let's go for number 3 again. 1, 2, 3. And this time I'm going to pick number 5. So let's see what number 5 says. It says, I will do all my homework or schoolwork on time. So there's your behaviour helper. And as I said, you have to write the things inside. So don't make them all too easy. Make some of them a little bit more complicated and a little bit more difficult, that will take a bit of extra effort for you to do.
And so our story is called Two Sons. Jesus liked telling stories, and he noticed that often there were two groups of people who gathered to listen to him. The first group were the group that always seemed to get into trouble for doing wrong things. Whenever Jesus spoke about God, his Father, they would shake their heads and say, "Oh, we are so foolish. We always seem to do what is wrong. How can God love us?" The second group were the people who thought they were very, very good. So much so, in fact, they made quite sure that everyone knew how good and wonderful they were. Whenever Jesus spoke about God, his Father, they would nod their heads and point to themselves and say, "We are so wise and so clever. We always do what is right. God must be very pleased with us." So one day, making sure that both groups were listening, Jesus told them a new story. There was once a man who had two sons. He also had a vineyard. It was a hot and sunny day, and he approached his first son. He said to him, "Nathan, I need you to go and do some work today. Please go to the vineyard and help with the harvest." But Nathan shook his head and said, "No, Father, I am not going to the vineyard. I want to go and see my friends today." And he headed off away from the vineyard towards the fields where he hoped his friends were. He said to the second son, "Luke, I need you to do some work today. Go to the vineyard and help with the harvest." Luke nodded his head and pointed to himself and said, "Of course, Father, I will do. I would love to go to the vineyard today. There's nothing I'd want to do better." And he headed off towards the vineyard. But on the way, Luke stopped to think. And he said to himself, "What am I doing? It's a beautiful day. I'd much rather be in the fields with my friends. Work can wait. I'm not going to the vineyard." And so he turned around and went off. Meanwhile, Nathan had stopped on the way, and he had thought, "What am I doing? I know it's a beautiful day, but my father asked me to help. The grape harvest can't wait. That's where I should be today." So Nathan turned around and went back to the vineyard to work. Now Jesus says, "Tell me, which one of these two sons did what the father asked and wanted? Nathan, who first shook his head and said no, or Luke, who first nodded his head and said yes?" "Nathan," they all answered. "He shook his head and said no, but he did what was right." So Jesus responded, "Listen. There are some who nod their heads at first and point to themselves and say, 'We are always good.' But when they hear God asking them to change their lives, they say no and go and do what they want. And there are the others who shake their heads at first and say, 'How can God love us?' But when they hear God asking, they do what he asks. They turn around and end up doing the right thing after all." Of course, we all agree that Nathan was the one who did what was right. And there are times in our lives when we know what we should do, but we want to do something else. It's not always the easy thing to do what God asks us. But deep down in our hearts, we know what we should do.
So our song today is called Who Put the Colours in the Rainbow? And you might know this song. It talks about some wonderful things that God has done to the world in which we live. But you might wonder why I'm not stood up ready to jump around and sing. But I've decided this week, because the words are a bit longer and also there's no real actions to this song, so I've got the words up for you. You'll be able to sing along with a proper singer and musician this week. So enjoy our song together.
Put the colours in the rainbow? Who put the salt into the sea? Who put the coal in the snowflake? Who made you and me? Who put the hump upon the camel? Who put the neck on the giraffe? Who put the tail upon the monkey? Who made hyenas laugh? Who made whales and snails and quails? Who made hogs and dogs and frogs? Who made bats and rats and cats? Who made everything? Who put the gold into the sunshine? Who put the sparkle in the stars? Who put the silver in the moonlight? Who made Earth and Mars? Who put the scent into the roses? Who taught the honeybee to dance? Who put the tree inside the acorn? It surely can't be chance. Who made seeds and leaves and trees? Who made snow and winds that blow? Who made streams and rivers flow? God made all of these. Who put the colours in the rainbow? Who put the salt into the sea? Who put the cold in the snowflake? Who made you and me? Who put the hump upon the camel? Who put the neck on the giraffe? Who put the tail upon the monkey? Who made hyenas laugh? Who made seas and leaves and trees? Who made snow and winds that blow? Who made streams and rivers flow? God made all of these. God made all of these. God made all of these.
And so a final prayer for today. Dear Jesus, be with us in all that we do and help us to make the right decisions, to do the right thing. Guide us, lead us and teach us in the coming week and always. Amen. Have a good week, and we'll see you again next week.